A recent report from Chris Johnson has revealed a potential trade that may need some help from another team, and that team in my mind is the Chicago Blackhawks, a perfect suit that would help this team make their trade. Now, we're going to be going over what this trade is, how the Blackhawks can be a very big impact in this trade, and what will be the advantage for the Blackhawks for doing this here in this video. But before we get into all of that, we notice that 78% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot to get all your Chicago Blackhawks news as it happens, make sure to hit the sub button. We're getting closer to the NHL trade deadline, meaning that we may have some Blackhawks news that is quite unexpected. You won't want to miss it, so make sure to hit that sub button. But like I said, we're going to get straight into this one. The Blackhawks really do have a huge chance here. And, like I said, this is a report coming out from Chris Johnson. This was also some pretty big news now about an hour or so ago. He says, with the Canucks believed to be among those pursuing Jake Guentzel, word is they've had discussions about potentially flipping Elias Lindholm to the Bruins as part of the machination to make it happen. Nothing concrete in place at this time, and there are still a lot of moving parts. Now, the Blackhawks are a very wealthy team in cap space, I guess you could say. The easiest way to say that. You're probably tired of this graphic now, right? By now, but it's still a very important one for this sense of what we're going to be talking about here today in this video. The current cap space is just shy of $40 million. So, we could pretty much get any player in the NHL, technically, but it is a very big opportunity, especially for this trade where Elias Lindholm, who's on the final year of his $4.9 million deal, recently traded to the Vancouver Canucks, may be flipped to the Boston Bruins, who are looking to add some depth at center, as well as a skilled player like Elias Lindholm to help on the offense and defense. The only problem is the Boston Bruins are very, very tight to the cap ceiling, so they're going to need some help from a third-party team to make this happen. Now, this is supposed to be a trade between Vancouver, Pittsburgh, and Boston. Maybe we throw in another team like the Chicago Blackhawks to be able to get that cap sent to a different location so the Boston Bruins could make this trade happen. The 50-25 like we've seen last year from Minnesota and many other teams, helping out some other teams by taking on a pick or some prospects. But we know now the Blackhawks have too many picks and a lot of prospects. Soon enough we won't be able to use all of these. Now, I know that you can never technically have enough picks and prospects to be able to flip, to be able to, make the pick, add to another team here, add to another team there, get this player for just picks, no players, and whatnot. There's an infinite amount of options that you could use those assets for. But I really do think that, especially from these teams who, aren't as wealthy on the pick side, but more have some solid prospects that they're willing to get rid of as they are going into a playoff mode now. The Boston Bruins lost Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, and that's definitely a huge loss. So they're kind of, in that situation where they're kind of retooling to be able to get back into the competitive aspect of it. I think the Blackhawks could help that by taking on some of this cap. Now, if I pull up JFresh chart here for Elias Lindholm, you can see that really is the main thing there on the right side, the cap, 4.9 by 1 year. So I think if the Blackhawks do get involved in this, that is going to be their portion of what they're going to be doing. They're going to be trying to take on some of that cap, and I think that they should put their name out there. Even though this trade has been apparently underway or is working towards, there's lots of moving pieces, as Chris Johnson said, I do think it's an important thing that the Blackhawks attempt, at least make an effort to, get into this some way by taking on some of that. There's lots and lots of options that the Blackhawks can do. And you can see here, like I said, they have so many picks over these next few round 1 and 2 of the next 3 years. 8 picks in the second round over the next 3 years, and 5 first-round picks, including a Tampa and a Toronto first-round pick. So the Blackhawks, like I said, they have a lot of assets. Whether they move some of those would be another interesting part into my mind. Tampa this year, I think the pick might be better than some people expected. Tampa is kind of on not as high as I guess that you could say they were the past few seasons. Still a very good team. And the same thing you could say with Toronto next year. Those picks will probably be on the lower side. Tampa this year, probably in the middle. But, the Toronto one next year, that might be able to be moved to another team in some way, shape, or form. The Blackhawks can try to manipulate something, try to make something work, try and get a player who, might not be fitting with their current team. One player of note that comes to mind when I'm saying this, is Arthur Kaliyev from the LA Kings. He hasn't really found that solidified spot yet in LA, and the Blackhawks may be able to take a guy like that. Maybe there's a prospect who isn't working out right now. Maybe there's a guy, Trevor Zegras is one in mind, that, just hasn't really found his groove this season. There's lots of options the Blackhawks could use this trade deadline, whether it's getting in the third party, like I said, with this current trade for Elias Lindholm, whether it's trading for one of those guys. There's a lot of options they can do, but that Elias Lindholm one really sparked my mind into thinking that there is a lot the Blackhawks could get really into the nitty-gritty part of the trade deadline to squeeze out some assets and maybe even get a few players that could eventually make an NHL roster or currently are on an NHL roster. I think that we could say the season to this season is a wash. I really don't think there's getting much better whether you add an NHL player or prospects or not. I really don't think a single player will manipulate this team to make them go on a winning streak or make this team drastically better. It still is a very rough go this season, and that first pick is definitely going to be closer to or the first round pick, excuse me, it's definitely going to be closer to the top 5, if not inside. So we can say that it won't be too much of a change if the Blackhawks don't, or if the Blackhawks do acquire somebody. I'm saying they're keeping the 3 first-round picks of their own, but I can see them maybe moving in a slight chance the Tampa or the Toronto one, or get into a third-party deal. Because, the trade deadline is this Friday, March 8th, so there's, not a lot of time, and people are looking to get some players. We've seen a lot of moves being made, not official yet, but moves leading towards something that's going to be finalized soon. So we'll see what happens over these next few days. There's lots that could still happen. We've seen a lot of players who have not really been on the trade market start to take a sharp rise. Linus Ullmark, Alex Wenberg, a lot of these players that were not so far on the trade bait list, but could end up being a sneaky pickup by anything. So I really do, the Blackhawks have said they're not doing anything. All signs point to them really not doing anything, but it really just seems like there's too many things that the Blackhawks could get into that they probably won't, So I think that they should just try and get involved somehow. I don't really think, like I said, nothing's making this team any better this year. I know a lot of you guys could probably agree. It really is something that is solidified. The changes they've made to the lineup this season, they haven't really shown too much growth, but we're gonna have to see what happens, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. There's just a bit of me that thinks that the trade deadline, I know teams don't do anything, but it just really is a disappointing thing to not see the Blackhawks maybe try and get a future asset, someone that could actually be a very good NHL player that a lot of people aren't thinking of, that could be a sneaky pickup here or there. But it's going to have to be something different, something abnormally odd from what we've seen from the Blackhawks this season. And, it really is just, like I said, frustrating the Blackhawks aren't doing anything. You want to see your team get better. I know this is not the season to do it, but, time's running out for them to make this a good-looking turnaround. So let me know what you think about this, if they should get involved, whether they try to move one of those first-round picks from Tampa or Toronto. I want to know. It really is an odd situation, but voice your frustration in the comments below. Voice what you got to say. I love reading them. This Blackhawks community is awesome. So let me know what you think, but that's all I got. Make sure to hit the sub button, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you do want to get up to date with all of the Blackhawks news, as well as this trade deadline, so you don't miss anything. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.